Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions. Today, we're discussing one of the best Zenith Revival series watches. Of course, the Revivals are as true to history as humanly and mechanically possible. If you love Zenith history, the company loves it as much as you do. These watches are scanned by laser and duplicated down to the most minute detail with some fit, finish, and material adjustments to make them modern luxury products. So this is the Zenith Defy Revival A3648. It harks back to 1969 when the original was on the market. This Revival came out in 2024, and in stainless steel, it is very true in size and proportion. 37 millimeters in diameter, 15.7 millimeters thick, super compact at only 44.2 millimeters across the wrist, with an 18 millimeter spacing between the lugs. When I throw this watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see the lugs are incredibly far inboard of the edge of my wrist, even over the top, which exaggerates the width of a watch. You can see the lugs are inboard. And while it's not particularly thin, it does have a stepped case flank, so a jacket cuff should be fine. But I would actually say this wears so compact that either a man or a woman can wear it well and really enjoy it. It offers a lot of value. The watch does feature a conventional 18 millimeter lug spacing. If you look at the bottom, you can see this isn't an integrated bracelet in the Nautilus sense. It's fit with a spring bar. It can be removed. The bracelet is a lovely piece, and this is where I think material quality steps up a bit from the historic watches, as the feel in the hand and the refinement in detail is far beyond the late 60s. It looks true to its era, but in terms of how it appears on close scrutiny and in the hand, it's definitely a luxury product. We have removable links here, which are fixed by screws, and plenty of removable links so you can find the right size. And then you can see we have 5 pairs of divots drilled, so you can use the strap tool you've got to re-anchor the bracelet inside the clasp to fine-tune the fit. And then there is a snap-in, fold-out dive extension if you do want to use this over a dive suit or even a thick winter coat if you live in cold climates. The clasp feels a lot more solid than the thin stamped vintage predecessors. The gauge of the steel is thick, and you can see it uses a clamshell lock. It is Zenith branded externally in a very austere, angular fashion that would have been common in the late 60s. Now, a couple of things that I would draw your attention to right here. Note the clamshell is fixed by a screw, so if this element ever starts to wear down, it can be replaced without replacing the whole clasp. And then you can see the use of spring-loaded stainless steel ball bearing pin snaps that are there to maintain a tight tolerance and interface over time. So very true to history, but also very much a modern construction. We have these intermediate polished facets as well as satinated primaries and shoulder links. It looks great. A lot of folks believe the modern Defy case is some sort of hand-me-down from Hublot or a hand-me-up from Tag Heuer. But if you look carefully, you can see that the Defy case, which is somewhere between a tonneau and a polygon, this is something that dates back to the 60s. It's not something inherited from one of the other LVMH watch group brands. And you can see that this one is razor sharp. Most vintage survivors will not be this sharp in terms of planar definition, break from plane to plane, or break from polish to satin. The crown, which is a screw down, is off-centered, then and now an ambidextrous watch. Taking a look at the outside of the bezel, you can see it's knurled, but it has vertical satination. The original would have featured a thermoplastic cap on the bezel. This one features a sapphire cap for the same aesthetic, but greater durability. The inner bezel is 14-sided. It is a tetradecagon. And then we have a super refined 120 click action for the bezel. So you can line up the bezel pearl with the minute hand, and now you have a 0 to 60 minute count up timing reference. I always provide advice to collectors who don't need chronographs to go with divers because the downstream service costs are lower. It's easier to read a dive bezel as a reference, and we rarely time anything over an hour with a chronograph. Now in the dark, you can see all 3 hands are luminescent, which is great because you know that your dive timer is running. Every diver should have a loomed seconds hand, and then you can see the bezel pearl is loomed as well. We have a dramatically boxed and cambered sapphire that's designed to look like a vintage plexiglass, and it really does look the part. The watch is 600 meters water resistant, so this is a real-world diver. I want to comment one more time on the bezel feel. It's awesome. It's among the best I've experienced. It's up there with the Cartier Calibre de Cartier diver, Grand Seiko divers, and Rolex. They always manage to blend smoothness with solid detents in a way that seems mutually exclusive, but comes together like alchemy on the best dive watches. Black and white and orange. I am all in favor of a world with more orange watches, and this is a great one. A couple things to note. The watch does feature a modern Elite caliber 670, and a couple of things. First, we do have hacking seconds. Second, a feature on the Elite, a movement introduced back in 1994. It's got a bi-directional quickset, so you can quickset in either direction, which is very useful. You'll also notice the attention to detail as the numerals are slightly shrunken in staggered fashion to fit the roughly trapezoidal profile of the date window. 4 Hertz beat rate, unidirectional automatic winding, as the Elite tends to be. And you've got the bidirectional quickset, the hacking, and a 50-hour power reserve. Taking a quick look through the reverse side, Zenith is a true manufacturer, and they don't want you to forget that. It's a 27-jewel movement made in-house. It's a handsome, thin, reliable stand-in for other high-end automatics. It is a peer of the Girard-Perregaux 3300 series and the JLC 899 series. So that is the peer group. I would not compare it to something like a Sellita SW300 or an ETA 2892A2. This is slightly a cut above. You can see they use KIF shock protection, generally something a bit upscale compared to standard ink block. Not necessarily better. It's just something you see on brands that are a little bit more luxe. Rolex, JLC, Zenith, they've used that shock protection through the years. We have machine finishing, including engine turning on the base plate on the outer edge of the bridges. We have polished screws and circular stripes on the movement. You can see that this is the Defy Revival. It is, in fact, a 600-meter watch. And fun fact, Zenith models always include, among other things, the movement caliber and the reference. So you can see that this is an A3648 and has an Elite 670 caliber. Now you know how to speak the Zenith lingo. I like this watch so much I might buy it. But if you beat me to it, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.